If you run Google Ads, then you might be familiar with the term product feed optimization. Well, what does it mean? What can you do about it? And what effect will good product feed optimization have on your Google Ads campaigns? I'm going to answer all of these questions in this video, so let's get into it. So before I do that, we need to talk about how shopping campaigns work. Specifically, how targeting works in shopping campaigns on Google. So unlike in search campaigns, there's no keyword targeting when it comes to shopping campaigns. And instead, our ads trigger based on the user search intent and how closely it matches our product data. So that means it's really important that we have really solid, really robust, and really accurate product data. So let's take this search query as an example. So I said men's running shoes size 10. So you can see I've been served a whole host of running shoes specifically for men. So we're off to a good start. But then you can also see, for example, this listing here, also this listing here has served me a running shoe in size 10. So I know that the product data behind these products is good. It's showing me the exact products that I'm looking for based on my search query. So the deduction from this is that better product data leads to better product performance. So product feed optimization basically means trying to improve your product data so that your products are serving for the highest intent or the closest match queries that they possibly can. And by doing so, you're going to increase things like click-through rate, but you're also going to increase the likelihood of conversion, your overall performance, and your level of growth potential on Google Ads. So if you're familiar with Google Merchant Center and you go into a single product listing, you'll see 40 to 80 different product attributes: title, description, images, landing page links, colors, materials, product ID, condition, all of these things. So it can be very overwhelming, and that's only for one product. Now, if you're a brand owner and you have an e-commerce business with 100 different SKUs, well, it gets very messy very, very quickly. So I'm going to tell you the exact attributes that you need to focus on, the ones that are going to move the needle the most, and the ones that are going to affect the targeting of your shopping ads the most. And there's 5 that I want to speak about. The 5 most important product attributes that are going to affect your shopping ad performance are price, product titles, product images, product descriptions, and your GTINs. Price is important. Obviously, we can see price gets served on every single shopping ad. See it here and here. So really important. We need to have an accurate and fair and also a competitive price. And we'll speak a little more about that. Product title is next. So you can see product title here, here, and here. So it's the blue text. So for example, New Balance 460 V4 running shoe, men's, juniper green, size whatever. Next up are your product images. So this is fairly self-explanatory. These are the images that serve on your product card in your shopping ads. And thereafter, you've got product descriptions and your GTINs. And your GTINs are your product identifier numbers. So whereas the first 3 that I mentioned, price, product title, and product images, they're all visible in all of your product listings. Your product descriptions and your GTINs are not. But they're really important because they help Google to match search queries to the most relevant products that you sell. So let's start with price. And price is always going to be the single most important attribute on Google Shopping. And the reason for that is Google is a shopping comparison site. So when people are looking at different product listings, they are comparing price first and foremost. So if there are a series of shopping ads, people are comparing the different products most often based on price. So looking for the lowest price, hence a shopping comparison site. So quite often the lowest price tends to win. So here's an example of whereby the lowest price is probably going to win. So these are kids multivitamins. This one here is $50, and then this one from Hoya is down from $30 to $15. So you can see the sale tag here. And this is something really useful that we'll talk about promotions in Google Merchant Center in a later video. So price is probably going to cause this listing here from Hoya to get a greater click share based on just people searching for a deal. But ultimately, there isn't a whole lot you can do about price. If you're a brand owner, chances are you have been working to find an offer that resonates well with people. So there are some tips and tricks that you can use. So for example, if you sell something in a pack of 5 or 10 or 20 or 30, then sometimes what can be useful is leading with the single pack. And the single pack is going to have the lowest price. So you can try to lead with that and then upsell on the landing page. Alternatively, you could use your highest volume pack and try to make a sale based on unit pricing. So try to be more persuasive about that. You can also lean more into price justification by talking about things like quality or luxury, justifying your price. And having a higher price probably qualifies an audience quite well also. So remember that you're only paying for clicks that actually occur. So if someone doesn't click on your ad because they deem the product to be too high in price, well, then you're not paying for that person anyway. So it's not the end of the world. But if you are butting heads with a competitor, you are going to really try to focus on getting the lowest price possible or the highest perceived value for the prospective customer. But moving away from price, because it is quite difficult to manipulate, the next thing you're going to want to focus on, and the next thing that's going to have the single most profound impact on shopping performance, is your product title. So your product title is going to be 150 characters at most, but the first 70 characters are the most important. And the reason for that is that the first 70 characters are what are seen on all shopping ads. Thereafter, you'll see this ellipsis here because we can't see any more of the product title. So it's not really valuable to us as a prospective customer, even though Google might be using that product title and that information to make sure it's matching up to the relevant search queries. We as the prospective customer can't really interpret that until we kind of click through and try to look for a bit more info on the product. But a really important concept when it comes to product titles, and a question I get asked a lot, is whether or not I should have my brand name or my business name in my product title. Because a lot of the time your product titles will be fed through directly from your organic listing or your organic title, and quite often people will have their brand name in that. So by default, they will lead with their brand name. But what I say to people is, if you're unsure about whether or not to include your brand name on the front end of your product title, remembering that the first 70 characters are the most important, the question you need to answer is whether or not you're a market leader. So if you're a market leader, if you're like Nike, for example, then yes, you're going to want to show your brand name right at the top of the product title so people can see it and they'll click through, they'll have brand recognition, and that's fantastic. If you are not a market leader or you don't have much brand awareness, well then leading with your brand isn't that valuable. Even though you might think it is, it generally isn't, particularly to cold traffic. They have no allegiance to your brand, it means nothing to them, and you're wasting potential space that could actually outline some key product details and some key features and benefits. So in my opinion, you're far better off leaving your brand name till the end, if using it at all in your product titles, if you are not a market leader. So how do you actually structure your product titles then? So again, it's very different for different niches, but for the most part, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have a core product type leading the way, then any key features or benefits, and then any specifics like quantity, size, material, use case. And then maybe at the end, if you want, you can include your brand name if you have space. So I'm going to run through for some different common e-commerce niches, a good and a bad example of a product title. So starting with apparel. So we have this blue denim jacket by Zavari. So a bad product title here would be Zavari denim jacket for men, blue Zavari clothing. Repetitive, doesn't really give me any information about the product itself. I know it's a denim jacket, I know it's for men, but I don't get any information. There seems to be an interesting lining here, seems quite unique. Maybe that's an interesting selling point. Is it quite warm? So instead, men's classic denim jacket, stretch fit, Sherpa lined blue. So we still have the important specifics like the color. We have Zavari here at the end because we have the space. We still specify that it's for men. We specify what it is. So it's the core product type leads. We have some key features, so stretch fit and Sherpa lined, and then our specifics and brand. And this is a much better attempt at a product title. Next up is consumer electronics. So Teknova is the brand here. So Teknova wireless earbuds, Teknova Bluetooth headphones. Again, very repetitive, leading with the brand name, not giving me a whole lot of information, particularly for consumer electronics. You're probably dealing with people who have a longer consideration phase. They're more information hungry. So in this instance, wireless earbuds with charging case, noise cancelling, Bluetooth 5.3, Teknova. Again, much more key information front loaded, telling me what it's coming with. So I never would have known it's coming with the charging case. You're telling me here, I now know it's noise cancelling, which is a huge plus. So a lot of key information that gets front loaded. I'm much more likely to click on this than I am to click on this. Next up is beauty and skincare. This is where I see brand name stuffed all the time at the top of the product title. I don't know why, but it's always a niche that just seems obsessed with getting the brand name in as many places as possible. So this is a La Roche-Posay product, but let's just say it's Glow-B is the brand's name. Glow-B vitamin C serum, Glow-B skincare. So I see this all the time. So vitamin C serums, there's probably thousands on the market in truth. So why buy this as opposed to anything else? So vitamin C, it's a brightening serum. Okay, so it's telling me that my skin is going to be brightened with hyaluronic acid and aloe vera. So again, if I am someone who's searching for a skincare product, I will generally have some element of insight into the type of active ingredients that I need for the outcomes that I'm looking for. So the brightening aspect there, so I know one of the benefits, and then I also know some key product features that it contains hyaluronic acid and aloe vera. Again, brand name at the end. I probably would look to include a bit more information about potential benefits here. I don't think this is perfect by any means. It's definitely a step up from here, but it's still not perfect. But again, it is a good framework to follow. Next up is home and furniture. So this is a memory foam pillow from Home True. So Home True memory foam pillow, Home True bedding essentials. You're beginning to see the theme here. Brand first, lots of repetition, not really telling me much that I don't already know from the photo. Memory foam bed pillow, cooling gel, ergonomic neck support. I would probably look to include one or two more key pieces of information once again, but this is a far cry better than what's going on over here. Lastly, our supplements. So this is a vitamin D3 supplement. So the brand name here is NutriPlus. So NutriPlus vitamin D3 supplement, NutriPlus Health. Very matter of fact, doesn't really tell me any benefits, any features, what the dosage is, how many tablets, etc. So vitamin D3, 5,000 IU, that's the dosage, immune support and bone health, non-GMO, gluten-free, NutriPlus. Again, could add something like the serving quantity. There's plenty more information we could stuff in here, but it is far and away better than the alternative here, which is just, again, wasting loads of real estate on the brand name that isn't adding much. If these were market leaders, then yes, there would be merit in stuffing that brand name right at the start. That is not something that I disagree with whatsoever. But unfortunately, the way the world is, the vast majority of businesses are not market leaders. They are looking for a piece of market share in a very competitive environment. And in this instance, you are much better off following this approach over on this side of the page. So what did I say? Core product type, key features / benefits, and then add your specifics like quantity, size, use cases. And then at the end, if you want to add the brand name. So that is product titles, and next we're moving on to product images. Some key things you need to be aware of with product images. They have to be high resolution. You cannot have really blurry, really crappy product images. It's not going to work. It's not going to have a good impact. The product has to be the main focus of the image. So particularly if you start using lifestyle images, which I will recommend down below, you need to make sure that the product that you're selling is front and center of the product image. And another important thing is to avoid text overlays. So you might be encouraged to put like a Black Friday sticker on your product image or sale or something like that. You think it'll be eye-catching. You think people will click on it, and maybe they would, but the problem is you are going to have a policy violation because of that text overlay, and you won't be able to serve that as a shopping ad whatsoever. So it's no good to you. So avoid text overlays like the plague. They always get pinged, in my opinion, by Google unless you're very, very lucky. And my number one tip when it comes to product images is to test lifestyle images. I would say 90% of the time when we are testing lifestyle versus plain background or white background, we see lifestyle images outperform based on CTR non-lifestyle images. And even when I say lifestyle images, I'm probably putting a simple background or a AI produced background in that category. It's not just product in use image. It can just be something like a slightly elevated product image with a slightly more sleek background as opposed to a pure white background. That's what I'm saying to test. Of course, you can test use cases, particularly useful for apparel. You want to have lifestyle images there, and I'll show you an example here. So here we have a plain white tee. So it doesn't get more plain than this, but there is a stark difference in how these products have been portrayed on shopping. So, and there probably is good reason for this. This ad here, they're selling a plain white tee for $78. So I'd imagine, look, it's heavyweight. It's probably really high quality, but it is quite an expensive cost for a plain white t-shirt. Now, if you look over here, cheaper product, sturdy tee, and that's all well and good. The one thing I would say is that they have the product being modeled. The product looks quite clean, quite crisp. It's ironed, and that is in stark contrast to what's going on over here. So we have a crinkled t-shirt. They could have put an iron on this at the very least. White background, so there's no contrast to the background. It's completely lost. I don't see how this could perform whatsoever. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't see how this would be a good shopping listing whatsoever. So for the most part, apparel, you're better off having a model wearing any apparel items just because people can visualize it that bit better. Again, there's no harm in testing non-model wearing imagery, but for the most part, something like this will vastly outperform something like this. And again, I would recommend putting an iron to any apparel items it is that you're looking to market on shopping. Next up is a slightly interesting one. I don't necessarily see one of these being immediately better than the other in terms of like a custom rug. So what's really useful here is that you see clearly the product finish or the elements that probably make this product quite unique. So the kind of close-up image of the rug itself is quite useful because you see that detail, and that detail is clearly important to the product. The alternative here I just quite like. Now, the one thing I would say here to be aware of is that this ottoman here is maybe taking a bit of the focus away from the rug. But again, you can sort of visualize how this might be if you were planning for, redoing a living room, or, imagining what that exact product would look like in some form of space. This is slightly more aesthetic. I would say it draws the eye a little bit more. But again, just looking at it, I'm not entirely sure what product is being marketed here. If I had to take an instinctive guess, I'd say the carpet, but the ottoman is taking up a lot of space as well. So just something to be cautious of. And then lastly, here are some cooking utensils. So you can see the plain white background here, whereas you can see this could be AI generated, or it could just be a product shoot. And you can see it's just, again, to me, it's more eye catching, but there is an important difference in this product. So this is more of a luxury, a premium product. So it does need that kind of luxury feel to it, very minimal feel, but at the same time, slightly elevated. Whereas here, I suppose the sell on Amazon is that look at all these items that you're getting. Very difficult to show off all these utensils in this style. So in that instance, the plain white background is fine. I don't see an issue with it per se, but I'm just saying that my eye would be drawn more to this listing here. So the context of the type of products that you are selling are quite important. And again, if you're selling a premium, utensil kit, or a premium carpet, or a premium t-shirt, you do need to take that little step up and make your listing look that bit more premium. It's really, really important. Otherwise, nobody's going to click through, and they're just going to be looking at the price, and they are going to go to an alternative listing whereby the product image looks a bit better and the price is lower. Well, then the perceived value is higher in a competitor's listing. So that would be something to pay a lot of attention to. And as I said, you can use a lot of AI tools to create product backgrounds. Google's Product Studio is something you can use inside Merchant Center, and basically it just takes a plain product background and can just elevate it. You can give it a quick description of the scene you want to create, and it can just make it look that bit different. It can kind of just stand out that bit more, and again, it can increase your click-through rate. There's a whole host of tools you can use for this. Google's Product Studio is free, and it's relatively good, and it's getting better as well. And then lastly are product descriptions and GTINs. So product descriptions, you have up to 5,000 characters, I believe, and basically a lot of people will take their descriptions from their PDP and just bring it in directly, and that's okay. You just need to make sure that it's really readable, it's scannable, it's highlighting all the key features and benefits. You're using those relevant keywords. Google used to use product descriptions, I think, more than it currently does in terms of matching up your products to relevant queries. But I still think it's important to get those valuable keywords in there. When it comes to product titles, when it comes to product descriptions, I'm never an advocate of keyword stuffing. Don't just launch potential keywords into these places because you think it will help Google match up that bit better. It has to flow naturally. Keep descriptions brief. Don't add text for the sake of it if it's not adding any value. Just think, if you were potentially buying this product, what questions might you have, and what questions could you answer then to a prospective customer? As a brand owner, you should know a lot of the questions customers have, prospective customers, that is, before they complete a purchase. You should be doing a very good job at answering those questions, handling any objections when it comes to your website, and just take those practices and implement them into your product descriptions then as well. Your GTINs, they're your product identifier codes. These are really important. Just make sure they're all lined up correctly. Once you're using Shopify and you've synced it to Google Merchant Center, then all those attributes should sync up very, very quickly and very reliably. So it shouldn't be an issue. You just got to make sure that each product variant has its own unique GTIN. Again, this helps with just matching the most relevant search queries to the most relevant products that you sell. When it comes to product feed optimization, the thing you need to remember is that with shopping ads, unlike search ads, you cannot dictate the search queries that you're showing up for, barring some interesting and nuanced tactics on Google Ads. But for the most part, for 95% of people, it's going to be slightly beyond them to work and manipulate Google in such a way. So your better approach is to carry out product feed optimization to make sure you're serving up the most relevant search queries for your business. 95%, I'm going to say, of your shopping performance is going to be dictated by 3 key attributes. That's going to be your price, your product title, and your product images. So if you're a brand owner and you're looking to improve your feed and you're looking to improve your Google shopping, well, focus 95% of your time on those 3 key attributes: price, title, and image. Everything else then should take care of itself. If you're an e-commerce brand owner and you are looking for some help with product feed optimization, then book a call via the link below in the description and we can have a quick chat. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you with the next one.